This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations. Come for the craft beer, bourbon, whiskey, and great drinks. Stay for the conversations. Here's your host, Jonathan Green.
Can you believe we're halfway through August? I'm enjoying some cooler temps here in Kentucky. I hope you're enjoying the weather where you are. We've got a fun episode for you this week. Our bar conversation is with country artist Dustin Herring and his good buddy Brandon Wright. Dustin will talk about his career, and Brandon will jump in a little bit to talk about an amazing veteran organization that the two played this past weekend, benefit they played this past weekend, and our tasting notes. We're in the midst of Cocktails 101 with Jake Sulek, and we've learned about the basics. We learned a couple different recipes so far, and this one will be the second one of those in the old-fashioned, as we learned how to build off of that, what goes into it, and how it all came to be. It's a fun episode. Don't forget to check out hopspirits.com for all sorts of information, including a lot of fun things there. And let's not waste any more time and get into the show.
It's almost time. Where did I put those? Here they are. It's time for tasting notes.
He's back again, here to talk cocktails here on Cocktails 101. Please welcome in Jake Sulek, the beverage director partner with the Professors LLC.
I'm excited to be here, Jonathan. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate this as always. It's always a fun time talking to you. We did the sour recipe last week. We did basics at the start of the month. So I think now we're going into maybe another one that's maybe in the whiskey realm that can also, of course, go across the board as well. And that's the old-fashioned and how we can build off of that.
Exactly. It's kind of one of the foundational recipes. If you're going to go out to a bar, you need to know a bartender that knows how to make a good old-fashioned. But they're actually really, really easy to make at home. They've got a strange history. I think they're probably one of the most misunderstood drinks recipes online. You see a lot of urban legends and myths about it. People like to fight about where the old-fashioned came from. But what we do know 100% for a fact is that the very first recipe for a whiskey cocktail was published in 1806. So we know that despite various liquor companies' claims to having created this or that whenever, we know that the recipe is over 200 years old. At the time, it was just called a cocktail with a capital C. It was just something new. But 70 or 80 years later, it had changed a lot. It had developed. People were using different spirits, using different kinds of sugars and bitters in it. And it became very fashionable in cities like Chicago and New York to go out to your local saloon, walk up to your bartender, ask him for a whiskey cocktail, and when he started to make it, you would stop him and say, "No, sir, I don't want it in a fancy coupe. I want it made the old-fashioned way," which meant they would serve it on a lump of ice in a rocks glass. And that nomenclature caught on, and even today we still call it an old-fashioned, which is actually just short for the old-fashioned whiskey cocktail.
I love that. I love that. And like you said, there's just something great about an old-fashioned. So I'm guessing this is another one. It's 3 parts, and it's one you can build off of, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. What made a cocktail different than any other kind of mixed drink at the time was that it included bitters. Bitters were only used for medicinal purposes. If your stomach was upset, your doctor would say, well, you need to take, a quarter teaspoon of bitters every night before you go to bed. This was the first time that a mixed beverage started incorporating bitters. So your template for your old-fashioned cocktail, you start with 2 dashes of bitters. You do a 1/4 ounce of sugar. I always use a 2-to-1 syrup. You can also use a 1-to-1 syrup if you want it to have a little bit more bite. There's a lot of leeway here to do different kinds of infused or flavored syrups as well. But you only need a 1/4 ounce. Anything more and it's going to be way too sweet. And then you put in 2 ounces of whatever base spirit you want. It seems like a lot of booze in proportion to all of the other ingredients, but the idea of the cocktail is that it's really just a way of making 2 ounces of a really good alcohol slightly more palatable. You just want to add a little bit of sugar and bitterness and seasoning to it so that you can throw it back a little bit more easily.
And now, for those that are using bitters, it's weird to hear dashes because you're used to, it's really easy to measure out the ounces. But a dash, what is a dash for those that that may not feel comfortable going, what am I doing here?
Yeah, that's something that's infuriating for me. I'm a stickler for controlling exactly what goes into a cocktail. And unfortunately, there's not a standard scientific dash that the culinary community uses. So in the bar world, we basically assume a dash is whatever comes out of the bottle. Now, there are a couple different measurements for, some people say that there should be 7 drops into 1 dash and then 6 dashes into a quarter teaspoon, but all of that's kind of arbitrary at the end of the day. So I treat it as a dash is whatever comes out of the bottle. Now, if that means that my Angostura dash is perhaps a little bit heavier than my orange bitter dash, that's okay. That's something that you can learn to play with at home, which is one of the fun things about making the old-fashioned at home. But ultimately, you just kind of have to relinquish control on that aspect of it and just have fun. Just drop and dash whatever bitter flavors you want to have in there.
And you touched on this too, that the syrups can be different and also the bitters can be different. And how does that kind of work and how does that play together?
The easiest way to change up your sugar syrup is to not use just a plain white syrup. I generally use a really nice cane sugar to make my syrups, which is going to be something like a turbinado, which is basically just the sugar that's just unprocessed. Now there's also Demerara that's available in most grocery stores. Demerara is going to be turbinado sugar that has about 5% molasses added back into it. So it's a little bit more pungent, a little bit more fragrant. It's got a little bit more depth, more baking spices in it. And then there's a lot of other options. I mean, you've got agave is a really great option. And then you've actually got infused syrups. Like you could take a basic 2-to-1 syrup and infuse it with chili peppers or strawberries or pineapple or fruit or anything and kind of create any flavor profile you want, as long as it matches sort of the profile of the base spirit, it's going to taste good. And most of these are obvious. A nice dark brown sugar syrup is going to go great with bourbon or Calvados or cognac, in the same way that a pineapple syrup is going to go great with any kind of dark rum.
And you mentioned it too. This is one that can go across the board. You can have it with, rums. You can have it with mezcal. You can have it with whiskey, and it's still a great drink, but brings some different flavors out.
Exactly. One of the probably most well-known modern classic cocktails out there right now is the Oaxacan Old Fashioned by Phil Ward. I think he created it around 2007 in New York City, but it's the same old-fashioned build that we've been talking about during this segment. You've got 2 dashes of a mole bitter, 1/4 ounce of agave simple syrup, and then you've got 2 ounces of tequila. And it's really 1.5 ounces of tequila and then 1/2 ounce of mezcal to add a little bit of flavor. But it's just the old-fashioned template that we've been talking about.
I love that, and I love to see how you can build variety into these, and I appreciate it all, as always, Jake.
Thanks for having me.
Remember to check out Hops and Spirits on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also find Hops and Spirits on YouTube and at hopspirits.com.
Joining us here on the Bar Conversations, he's a country musician, songwriter, Dustin Herring, and we also have his good friend Brandon Wright, as they're going to be playing at the Blazer and 88 benefit this weekend, or at least after it as this comes out. But guys, welcome in.
Hey, buddy. Thank you for having us.
Hey.
Now, I got a question. I think I can figure out this answer pretty quickly. I always like to ask this because I'm going a little whiskey, little Breckenridge high proof bourbon. You got anything good tonight?
Well, it's always around, but we try to keep it simple during the week,
I was going to say, I think you enjoy a good Keystone. I also think you have a love of ketchup. So why those two things that you kind of can't live without?
Come to find out, I used to just love the way they taste, and now that I know what's in them, I think it's just sugar. I'm addicted to sugar. One of them gets me an alcohol high, and the other one gives me an endorphin high, I guess. I'll put both of them on anything.
I was gonna say, you can cook with Keystone. I mean, you can, brats, dogs, all sorts of good things.
If I ever have a little bit of something I'm sauteing, there's always going to be just a couple drops in there,
I like it. Now I gotta ask this too, because obviously we know you're into music these days, but you went to school, you got a plant pathology degree. What happened? Where did it go right? Did it go wrong? What happened?
No, it went right. I mean, I originally went to school just to do ag business and economics because I was just gonna need a degree that fit living back in Southeast Alabama, and I got into music when I was in college, and when I was doing that, ended up getting an opportunity with my part-time job to get a plant pathology master's degree, and I never thought I'd be somebody that got beyond a 4-year degree, but and I'm wearing my Auburn shirt too, so War Eagle, and that was some of the best times of my life. Had I not went to Auburn, I wouldn't have learned to play guitar. I wouldn't have learned to write songs. I wouldn't have ended up going out to Mississippi, where I took my first big boy job, and that's where I really fell into playing a lot of music and writing a lot of songs.
And Brandon, I don't want to leave you out here. I mean, do you have a master's degree, or is Dustin just always acting like he's the smartest one?
No, he's definitely the smartest one in the room right now.
No, there's a difference. I'm educated, not smart. There's a way big difference. Okay, there's a way big difference.
Whatever he said.
I like it. Well, yeah, you mentioned learning guitar. I mean, was it just your buddies kind of teaching you, and you picked up a couple chords, and you can almost say the rest is
exactly
history?
That's all it was. I never even knew a friend in Southeast Alabama that had a guitar. We sang a little bit in church, stuff like that. Sang along on the radio, knew all the songs. But as far as that was an impossible challenge to me. Those 6 strings were a maze I was never going to figure out till somebody showed me 3 simple chords, and from there you can play a whole bunch of country songs, and most of those country songs were my favorites. So
I was going to say, I mean, before we came on and I hit the record button, both of you had your guitars out, I think. And do you just kind of now, is it second nature to have a guitar around and play?
I mean, I was in Apalachicola, Florida this morning, and there was 2 things I brought with me: a bag with about 2 changes of clothes and a guitar. And when they told me we only had room for 1, I said, well, you can get rid of that bag of clothes because I can buy more of those, but my guitar's going with me.
Brandon, do you feel the same way about your guitar? Is it always with you?
I do. It travels with me like a case of beer.
But you don't have to replenish it every couple days,
very
right?
true.
Just the strings.
Just the string.
It's like ice. It's like ice.
No.
Just gotta
You
keep
need ice.
Gotta those essentials there. Now, Dustin, for me, when I was reading up about you, I feel like the Mississippi Delta, that had a big impact kind of on you when you went over there, and I think maybe is that kind of where the music bug really bit you, and you got your career when you were working out there and so forth.
It's where I had to make a decision on what did I want to do that was safe in life, or what did I want to do that felt like a purpose in life. And when I was out there, I mean, I had like you said, I had a good education, I had a good job, but it was one of those things where I was writing a lot of songs, and other people were starting to record my songs, and I was like, well, I can either live the rest of my life out here, being successful in something that everybody can do, or I can throw my hat in there and go after something that not necessarily everybody gets a gift or a talent to do. And I think the isolation of being out there for the first time in your life, you move to a brand new place where you don't know anyone. But I moved in a place where I started meeting really great people, really music invested people. That whole Delta is just full of great musicians, even people that don't do it full time. They play every Friday and Saturday, and they're better than a lot that I've ever seen any other, area. You call it the blues, you call it country, you call it whatever. They can do it all out there. And they may be a mortician during the day. One of my biggest kind of pushers is a guy named Reverend Rob, and he's out of Greenville, Mississippi. He's a mortician by day, but that's a bad man when he gets on stage. And he's found a way to do his thing, and that was a big influence. I saw so many people, even some of my coworkers. One of my coworkers got a jazz musician degree from Memphis, and he's out there with me checking cotton. And I'm like, you're so much better at guitar than checking cotton. Anybody can check cotton. He's like, well, I got to pay the bills. I can play guitar here as I go, so stuff like that.
Well, and then what pushed you to enter? Depending on what year it was, the Colgate Texaco Country Songwriter Competition back in 2012. What made you go? Let's give this a shot and see what happens.
At the time, I hadn't really played. Once I moved there, I hadn't played any of those venues. And finally, those venues were the host of the talent contest. At the beginning, it was just who can sing the best, who can play the best. And I entered that just like an American Idol or a voice that we didn't have back then. And as I progressed from city level to county level to state level to region, whatever, they said, oh, by the way, we have a songwriting contest, and we noticed that you keep singing original songs. You're not doing cover songs in this talent contest. And they said, we think you should enter that. Well, just by fluke luck, honestly, I was like, I want to sing my songs. I want that to work. I can't sing Garth Brooks better than Garth Brooks. I can't out sing Randy Houser. So I need to sing my songs the best I can. And when I got that chance that I saw that I could just pitch my songs for the first time ever, I lucked up, and that's the only way I can explain it. I lucked up, and I just believed in my songs that much. That's how I got there.
Well, and did you really just ignore the phone call when that call came in of you winning?
I shouldn't say I ignored it. I saw a number. This is no joke, and everybody knows I'm a big hunter and big fisherman. But this is the God's honest truth. I'm hunting outside of Greenwood, Mississippi, and the competition. I've already got put out of the singing part of it. I fell short. I came in like second, I think, in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I get this phone call. And I'm hunting in Greenwood, Mississippi, and it says Nashville. And I was like, it's spam. It's somebody got the wrong number. Because apparently, not to be funny, but apparently to this day, I have one of the biggest drug dealers' phone numbers that ever come out of Cleveland, Mississippi, because I get phone calls to this day from people wanting to know, hey, man, is Bird there? I need to get up with Bird. I'm like, if you hadn't got up with Bird in about 10 years, I'm afraid. Anyway. I'm not trying to be funny, but it's the God's honest truth. You should hear some of the voicemails I have. But anyway, I'm sitting there in a deer stand, and this phone number rings, and it's Nashville, and I was like, that's nobody. It's vibrating. Where I turn it off. Then voicemail. And back then, I don't think your voicemail would let it, like, read it for you, where you checked it, what it transpired or whatever. So when I got through hunting, I actually had shot a deer. And when we got through, we got back to town. And I was like, let me check this thing. And I checked it, and it was like, hey, this is so-and-so with Nashville, Tennessee, and you've won the songwriting contest. We want to just congratulate you and tell you you're coming to Nashville. And I was like, this is still probably a wrong number. I still didn't believe
it. Thinking, someone like Brandon over there is just pranking you. And
you wouldn't believe how surprised I was. Even on the way up there, I was like, there ain't gonna be a room there when we get there. There's no way they booked me a room at the Hilton up here and that. No way. Marriott, excuse me, not the Hilton, the Marriott. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I would book, not a Hilton, a Marriott to trick them. I was like, there's no way.
I mean, what was it like, getting to go to Music Row and kind of seeing all that, and realizing that there could be an opportunity this way?
To not know anything about Nashville from music and to win that was really, in a way, probably the only way it would ever happen, because had I come there straight away, I would have already been intimidated by Music Row. I've been intimidated by these songwriters I'm meeting, these publishers I'm meeting. But I was just so naive. I just thought like it's just like anything else. You want to buy a bag of seed, you just drive to this town that sells the seed and you tell them, hey, I'm here to buy seed. And open the door, let me in. Well, they just let me right in because I'd won the contest and that was part of the deal. And when I'm there, all of a sudden I start realizing, like, holy moly, I'm looking at Grammys sitting on shelves and stuff, and they're not to talk bad about your man cave, but what I thought Music Row was the downtown big buildings and all. Music Row is this little two 1-lane streets with these little houses on them with basements, and there's 5 or 6 different producers and songwriters and publishing companies that work in there, and there ain't much to it, but that's where all the magic happens. And I was just overwhelmed, to be honest. And when it clicked in my head, these people that I just shook their hand, I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I just got lucky and swung on the first pitch and I hit a home run. And now they think I'm a good hitter, you know. It was just overwhelming.
Well, and then you decided did you end up moving up there in 2014 to kind of give this a go?
Yeah,
full-time?
one of
What was
the
that like?
one of the songwriters I got to meet in one of those basements. She's a producer. She's a successful songwriter. Her name is Victoria Shaw. She wrote The River for Garth Brooks. And I was asking her, she's like the last. I'd met several songwriters, several producers in that day. And she's the last one that I finally felt comfortable enough now. I was like, I got to ask you some questions. And I was like, how hard is it really? Like, I have this job, I have this stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. I love this so much, but how hard is it? And she said, if you have to ask me whether or not you should move up here, you shouldn't move up here. And she said, because when I was coming up, if you would have told me I wasn't going to be a star, I'd have told you to kick rocks, because that's the only way you can be who you are. That's the only way it's going to work. You got to believe in yourself more than anything. And if you don't, then you need to just go back and play it safe. So I was torn. I didn't know what to do because I believed in myself, but I'm looking up and I'm like, the odds, she's telling me the odds are stacked against me. She's telling me the odds are stacked against her. And she's wrote The River, you know? And, man, that's probably the biggest motivation I ever had in my life. When she said, if you want to be in the big leagues, you got to move to the big leagues. And ain't nobody going to help you, and ain't nobody sent for you. And I was like, all right. So I went back and I had to really think about it. But I said, I'm not going to die over here in Mississippi wondering or not whether I could be a songwriter.
Well, and it seems to have worked out pretty well for you. I mean, you know, you're getting to play music now for a living. I mean, I know you still get to go to the farm and different things at times, but what's it like to be able to do this? And that you took that bet on yourself, and so far it seems to be going well.
Sometimes it's the hardest thing in life because you see your friends, they have a lot more stability and stuff like that. But like I said, last night, I was down in Apalachicola, Florida at a fish camp that didn't even have phone service enough to do this interview. And, you know, here I am on the internet with you doing this podcast. Now, granted, here's the other part people don't see. I only got to sleep 2.5 hours, and I had to get up, had to drive 2 hours to another airport, had to do 2 connection flights. Then I'm in Indianapolis at 3 p.m., and I'm going to play 3 shows. I'm going to turn around, fly back, 3 more shows in a row, 1 day off, Florida. I like it. It just, everybody gets to see the cool part. They don't get to see the, you know, the grind of it. It's funny to me that just to try to cross promote with my interest. Obviously, I want to do music. I want to do songwriting. I want to do singing. I want to do hunting. I want to do fishing, stuff, football, whatever I'm into at the time. It's so funny. One of my mother's friends the other night, I was like, wish I could just take off next week and just go fishing just one day. And she goes, what are you talking about? You fish every single Friday. And I'm like, no, I post a picture of a fish every single Friday, but I'm not fishing every single Friday. You think, I mean, granted, I can go from Apalachicola to Indiana, but I don't do that all the time. So, sometimes you fake it till you make it or whatever the term is. But most of the time, if I say I'm fishing somewhere, I was doing that earlier in the week or something, but it's, at least I get that opportunity. I'm not stuck behind a desk 9 to 5. I'm not. No one tells me what to do. I do, for the most part, what I want to do.
Well, and you with that being said, you get to do cool things, you get to do fun things. When this airs, the benefit that y'all are playing this weekend will have passed. But how cool is it to do stuff like that? Where you're able to give back to veterans and share your talent with someone.
Well, first,
else
I just want to thank
help out.
all my veterans, all my buddies like this that served our country and made sacrifices, and that they still deal with those sacrifices. It's not something you just put in those years. You get your check and do whatever. They've lost good friends. They have struggles they go through all the time. So first off, I just want to tell how much I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for all of that. And the least I can do, if somebody calls me and says, hey, we're doing something, would you want to be a part of it? The least I can do is say, look, if I can afford to get there, I'll be there. And it means the world to me that they could pick anybody else to do it, and they asked me to do it. So that's kind of where I am on it.
And Brandon getting to play with Dustin and something like this and have a
It's
good
very
time.
cool.
How cool is that?
We met six years ago at a bar here in my hometown, and it's crazy that our friendship grew over hunting and fishing and obviously music. But I mean, this is probably pretty much the first time we've really played really a whole show together. So it's
and that's the thing. I met him for some a local artist wanted to sing one of my songs and wanted to make a music video, and he wanted me to be there to kind of be a part of it and be around. Well, I meet him sitting at the bar waiting on them to get the camera set up and stuff, and I talk to him about it every day, and that's what music can do. It can you can meet so many people. Some of my closest core people are people I met through music, and then like him saying, "Oh, this is our first time playing a show together." He sends me videos of him playing guitar. I'm like, I can't even do that, and I do this for a living, and music is just, if you want to do it, you can do it, and it fixes people, it heals people, it reaches people, it does all these things, and it connects people. That's the biggest thing, and
it's some kind of a magnet that I don't think anybody can explain. It just pulls. I can't even explain it, but it just pulls people together, and it's hard to.
Me and you wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't like music, and I didn't write it for beer make it better.
Exactly. That's right.
A beer can make it better. There's one of those
Yes,
right there.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's like the perfect line for the podcast. Intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. I mean, there is something to that though, and what's it still like? Because I'm guessing, do you still get out on the farm and get to enjoy that and relax a little bit on occasion, Dustin? Is that relaxed time for you when you get to sit in the tractor and just kind of
it is
work a little bit? That
it is
way?
relaxing because you're back home. I didn't realize how much I missed South Alabama until I realized how long I'd been gone. But it's also a guaranteed paycheck. For a minute, like your voice gets tired. You get your fingers hurt. You get tired of singing I'm tired of driving for a minute. I'd rather just sit somewhere. And when I operate a machine, I was taught by a good friend of mine who taught me how to operate. You don't turn the radio on because you need to hear and feel the machine. So you're just quiet. And it's so loud. Our whole world is so loud with all these stigmas, your constant Facebook feed, your Instagram picture, your blah, 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 blah. It's too much sometimes. And I know it's a great tool that can really get stuff out there, but sometimes it's good for me for just get it all over with in the morning. Here's where I'm playing this week, blah, blah, blah. Hope to see y'all there. Hashtag everything. I'm done. And I just cheat. And you get to see the stuff. You get to just breathe for a second. So that's I will say this. I remember when that was my job every day. I'm on that tractor and all I'm trying to do is write songs. And then I got to a point where all I'm trying to do is write songs. I just wish I could just chill on the tractor for a second. You know, you can't make everybody happy all the time. And that's got to be the best example ever. Just, there has to be a balance. And that's my balance.
Well, now, I was going to say, I mean, how much, like you mentioned, not being able to get back home, how much, COVID, I'm sure, can screw up a lot of things with a career and different things, plans and all, but did it kind of almost rebalance things when you got to go home and sit on that porch
that was my first year that I actually had booked an entire year worth of shows, because I'd always worked a part-time job. I shouldn't say part-time. It was a full-time job. I worked for a record label guy taking care of a property in Nashville. Was working back home in Alabama growing CBD hemp on the side. I'm doing anything I can do to try to make money to finance this fiasco called country music. And that's the only way I know to say it. I mean, I would literally do anything. I wanted that bad. I wouldn't sleep. I didn't care. And that just became the norm. I neglected so many things. My health, the people that love me, the people I love. And then when the pandemic happened, I kind of went into like a 1 month of depression. Little poor, pitiful me. Everything I had lined up, everything I've worked for, everything that's supposed to happen is snatched out from under me. And I remember riding around one day and I called my aunt, who is my financial backer. She's the business side of the publishing company I'm trying to run with. And she said, "You're not the only one that's hurting. You're not the only one that's not fulfilling their dreams. There's people who are losing their house. They can't feed their kids. They can't, there's people that are dying, Dustin, and you're over here just saying your music career is not taking off like you wanted." And that really kind of rang a bell with me. And she said, "You got to see the positive side of this. You hang in it. Use this time to write. Use this time to rest. Use this, see what else you can do." And it was something after that day, like the very next day, I spent more time with my grandfather. I started doing stuff like cutting old ladies' grass. I was still being active. I was helping these other people that were all by themselves. And it shifted from a selfish feeling to a grateful feeling. Like I'm not happy that it happened, but I'm grateful that it happened. And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to gain back those years I lost with my grandfather, or reground myself, or slow down, or whatever you want to say. So, and I don't want to speak for Brandon, but I'm sure it was cool to just be with your kids for a while. And I had stretched myself too thin and focused on things that weren't that important. They're important, but they're not that important.
I think it taught us all a lot about life. I think that, families, we all learn that family is important, and we all learn that, obviously life can be taken from you at any minute from anything. So I really think we all learned a lot about ourselves.
Well, it let everyone slow down and like you all said, kind of refocus. And I've talked to a lot of folks that were like, it let us write, it let us do this. It opened up some things that maybe they couldn't do with the daily grind of everything else. And you know, for you, Dustin, you recently in May released Acquired Taste. What was that like putting that album together? And also, I got to ask this, Brandon: is Dustin an acquired taste?
Don't lie, boy.
He is, but it's an easy acquired taste for a lot of us. So,
Well, if you only surround yourself by other acquired tastes, we all just funnel ourselves right in there.
there's that too.
I like it, but very, very diplomatic there. But so I, you know, listening to the album, I love "Calls for a Drink." I love "Horseshoes, Hand Grenades." I mean, there's just a lot of good songs in there. Obviously, you like a good drink. It's woven into some lyrics here and there. I mean, what was it like
especially
putting that album
after
out?
the pandemic, I've put out EPs and singles and stuff that I was kind of like hoping other people would like. And obviously, I want to try to always be good to a song. I want to do the best song I can. But at the end of it, I was like, if it can all be taken away from me and I only get one chance to say what I want to say, what's on me, what's in my soul, what has made me go through everything I've went through in Nashville, then I need to say it now. Because if there's ever been a time that's told you it can be gone tomorrow, now's that. So I was like, I'm going to put out my art. I'm going to put out my voice. I'm going to put out my style. And it was the easiest thing I've ever did. I knew exactly it wasn't like I had to guess over it or ask opinions. I told them, this is what I'm going to put out. I'm going to put out this song in this order. And that's going to tell my story. And after that, I sleep good. Sleep good.
Well, and in the I believe outside of having your grandpa be the lead into the album, the first song is Alabama Clay. What was it like to cover that?
Well,
why did you want to cover that?
First and foremost, I
And
just
put it
fell
on the
on.
album.
That's what I grew up listening to was '90s country, and being on those tractors with my grandfather's farm hands and stuff like that. That was, you just listen to the radio. Those were the songs that if I could have grown up in an era, that's what I'd have picked. And that was one of me and my best friend's favorite songs. And when we lost him in an accident, it was like the song for our group, our family. That's what we all healed ourselves with. And it was always a real special song. And I recorded it originally as just as like a gift, a Christmas present, as a tribute to him. And I gave it to his mother, his father, his family, sisters, and all. And even had Garth Brooks' daughter sing with me on it back before she was really pursuing the artist thing. She just did that to me as a favor. She sang harmonies. And it was just a demo version. It wasn't what we actually released. And looking back, that's the kind of things I moved to town to do, was to reach people. And I think we reached more people with the underground demo that was just getting passed around via text messages than we've ever reached with the streams, because it's not the same. I'm just talking out of school now, but I know that original demo we put out in 2017 that was just in a text message form, there's no telling how many times that thing's been shared. But that was the only way I could start off a record, was why I started doing country music. It's because I fell in love with songs like that.
Well, and how has, from those early releases, back from when you were just kind of cutting songs, after the Country Showdown and things like that, to this album, how have things changed? Because obviously I know you said just a little bit ago that this is more you. This is you. This is what you want to put out, not maybe what others want to put out. Is that,
I think,
how things have changed for you over time?
Because I'm two things. I'm an artist, where I'm a singer, where my voice is a traditional sounding voice. I like traditional sounding stuff, but I can write anything. I can write pop. I mean, if Lady Gaga called me tomorrow and asked me to go out there to LA, fly out there and write, I could do it. I promise you I could do it. I'm not saying it'd be the best song that she's ever been a co-writer on, but I could do that stuff. I mean, I enjoy writing other people. I love all types of music. Like it. So the problem that I think I ran into was I can write something that's really good and really catchy and people like, but if I sing it, it just doesn't come off right. It doesn't change whether or not that song reaches or touches people. But if you're not the one to deliver it, if you're not that person, and I'm just not that person, I have a niche. My songs they only can fit when I'm singing them a certain way. And I think I just tried a lot of different stuff because that's what was working. And don't get me wrong, I'd like to make some money. I'd like to keep staying here. I've outlasted a lot of people, but I want to last. I want to be here when it's all said and done. And you got to make those, compromises. But as far as an album goes, I wasn't going to compromise. If I only get one shot, if everything could be took away, I wasn't going to compromise. I did what I knew I was good at, and I did what I knew I wanted to say.
Now I got to ask, can you write if like Jay-Z calls you up, are you able to write
if
a
I
hip-hop
flipped a
song?
quarter, I bet on heads, and I bet it land on heads, I could do it. No doubt. No doubt. It ain't that hard. All you got to do is say
I
four
like
things.
it. I like the confidence.
Four things. Yeah.
Oh.
And that's the country song right now. Jay-Z song, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Yes, it is true.
Well, and
Can't make it rhyme, just go, yeah.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
They're going to kick us off the radio. They're going to kick me off the radio. I ain't even been on
it. Well, and I gotta ask this too, because you mentioned the songwriting process, and I'm curious about this for both of you, because I'm always wondering like how it is to write a song. Sometimes people, it's just an idea. Some can only write the hook or the catchy part, and then they work with others to kind of flesh it out. Or I had a Dane Lewis on. He's like, no, it was pure life experience. I came from a small town, and also that meant they knew who I was probably writing about. So where do you guys fall in on that,
I think
and
it'd be
how
cool
the songs come and
to let Brandon
and the lyrics
answer
and
this
everything
from his perspective, because he doesn't do it professionally all the time. I would say you try to write songs, right?
Yeah.
So you tell them what it's like when you first start off.
It comes from real life experiences. For me, it does. It all doesn't always end up very well, but it's usually I've had a few ideas that have been taken off and ran with that have worked, but when I try it, it's a disaster. And I've tried to come up with an idea for him, but I just have kind of folded them up and thrown them away. So to me, it's real life experiences, but I'm sure he's probably the exact same way.
So you know too much about songwriting. You know just enough to get yourself in trouble. What I'm saying is you shouldn't worry about what I think. You shouldn't worry about what anybody thinks. When I started writing songs, I didn't even know that you wrote songs for other people. I didn't know it was a thing. I thought every person that sang the song wrote the song. You know what I mean? I was kind of disappointed when I got Google and some good internet, and I found out that
You and me both.
these people didn't write these songs. I was like, hold up. I don't know if I like them as much as I used to. Who wrote this? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, that person I didn't think they could sing that well wrote all these songs. Holy shit, Willie Nelson wrote all these songs? Now I'm a huge Willie Nelson fan. Now I'm a huge song. You know what I mean? Like, I was more into that. And
or like now, it's like Luke Bryan wrote that song, but he didn't record it.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's what, at the end of the day, I love when people say, I hate this new country music. I hate this and that. I'm like, you hate music business. You hate the commerce part of it. You don't hate the art. You don't know what it's like to have kids. And there's probably more like 500 other people under every artist that is depending on them to make this huge so they can all keep their jobs. And that goes all the way from setting up the stages to running the merchandise to driving the trucks to, not to forget, producing the songs, writing the songs, background vocals, guitars, musicians, everything. You don't know what it's like, so don't tell me you hate Luke Bryan. You just hate the commercial song Luke Bryan's got. But think about that number 7 track called Drink a Beer or something like that. You know, that's a Chris Stapleton song, by the way. You know, you didn't know that. Nobody knew who Chris Stapleton was till he sang Tennessee Whiskey, which was an already been covered twice in a totally different progression. You know, to this day, if I ever meet somebody who says they want to be and if they're young, I'll give them a little grace, but say, I don't like this new stuff, I don't like that. I'm like, there's a happy medium we all have to work with. Maybe drink a beer and chill out and sit here for 5 years. And if you're still here in 5 years and you say you don't like it, then you ain't done enough to change it. You know, that's just kind of the way I think about it.
Well, I mean, it's a tough industry. It's not an easy thing. It's not something that everyone gets to do, at least, you know, on the big stage. And there's a lot that goes into it. And is it weird to share those personal experiences or those life experiences that you've had in those songs?
Nah, not really. Because like Brandon said,
kind of become the
that's the
inspiration
only
behind
way
the song?
That's the only way I ever connect to people in the first place. I started off just writing about what I knew. Then when I got to Nashville, I kind of veered off a little bit when I was writing with other people, and we were writing what we thought people wanted to hear. And I kind of lost the connection with the folks that were following me in the first place. And they can tell the difference. People can tell whether I'm being general when I'm writing this song or I'm talking about me. And if all I can get is people that listen to me, then I need to keep singing songs about me or whatever I've been through or something. It has to be real close. You know, it can't. I'm not saying every single song happened to me, but it's got to be within arm's reach. And
because that's what people feel.
Yeah. And then I can write other songs. And then those people those artists will grab those and that'll be them. And then when they're doing it, their audience will know that's them, whether they wrote it or not. And then I'm still relevant. I'm still in the vein of music. I'm still putting it out there, you know.
Well, and as you go, as you know, the year, you know, you've put out an album. What's the rest of this year look like for you? Just supporting the album, going on tour, or you know, going to music, you know, playing shows, things like that. Is that
I
the
won't
rest of
say
the year
the
for you?
time on the farm.
Maybe a little time
like
on
I
the
said,
farm.
that's
We'll
just
hunt and
been
fishing
here and
too.
there when I can. When I get 2 days off, Monday and Tuesdays are my day, quote unquote, off, where I don't actually play. So I give myself some vocal rest. But that's where you call venues, line up stuff, catch up on your accounting, you get your receipts straight, get everything. See how much you just lost on your tour to Texas, that kind of stuff, you know. I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, we should make more money than what we do. But we've got some songs we've already recorded, and that the whole goal with those songs were okay. Once we get some traction and other stuff, we put those songs out. So we'll probably put out a couple more singles and focus on, I guess you would call it your group of people, and those people that have been there. We've heard what they say. We've seen their messages. I've listened to what song they want me to say the record. So that's what we're going to do too. But yeah, this whole summer's just been going everywhere, putting out CDs, playing the record, doing stuff like that. And it's just been a blast for me just to have people request those 10 songs I put out and play them.
I mean, how cool is it to have people want those songs? I mean, obviously at the end of the day, that's what you want to have happen, but that doesn't always mean it's going to happen exactly how you hope. I mean, that's got to be a fulfilling thing to see.
Well, just like coming out here with Brandon and his folks
like
up here,
going in the right direction with everything.
over the past 4 or 5 years, when I play a show up here every now and then, they don't want to hear me sing my favorite country covers. They want me to play my songs. And for them to invite me up here, knowing I've put out a record, knowing that they're going to want me to play those songs, that makes you feel pretty dang good, honestly, because there's no reason for a boy from South Alabama to be just south of Indianapolis at all. You know, I've never lost anything up here. There's no reason for me to be up here. But and to get to be a part of a good benefit and get to, you know, share a stage with a buddy, what else could a man really want? You know, I got a pretty good deal going right now.
Well, and before I wrap it up, I gotta say blazer88.org, I believe, for the foundation. And anything else you guys want to say about that? Because it seems like it's doing some good things, and you know, passion for helping.
Yeah,
others
we started Blazer 88 about 4
like
years ago. A buddy of ours that was a Marine also passed away tragically in a motorcycle accident, and Chuck was always the guy who would call you, be like, "Hey, can you watch my dogs? You know, I got to go help so-and-so. He's struggling. I need to help him." And when Chuck passed away, it was all of us buddies came together and was like, we need to start something, you know, and his Blazer 88 was his call sign in the Marine Corps. So we started that, and he loved motorcycles. And we're not just a motorcycle ride. We're doing a 5K October 15th to raise proceeds for events that we have. Also, this past year we had 2 kids that we sent to Life Camp USA, which is a therapy-based camp. These 2 kids lost their parents in the global war on terror. And basically we just want to help veterans with therapy and financial support. You can donate at blazer88.org. At the bottom of the page, if you have Venmo, PayPal, we also take debit, credit card. I mean, it's nothing. There's no better feeling than, as a veteran myself, is helping kids who have lost their parents, or a veteran who is struggling either with things that happen on a deployment or just coming home from the service and having trouble with the transition to civilian life. That's what we're here for, and that's what we're trying to do in Chuck's name.
And it's blazer88.org. You can find them on Facebook as well, and doing some really amazing things to support, you know, veterans, their mental health, and their families, and I love that. And DustinHerring.com, and you can also find him on social media. And guys, this was a blast. I appreciate you sharing a drink with me. And
appreciate it, brother. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
That's what drinks do, and music brings people together.